Good evening, I'm Yochanan El Rom, and this is IBA News coming to you from Jerusalem. Former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert's interrogation just ended after 8 hours of questioning at the Lod police station. Olmert was summoned to appear today for his alleged role in the Holy Land property scandal. We get more in this report.
Former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert spoke to investigators of the National Fraud Unit under caution near Lod this morning, marking the first time he underwent questioning at a police station rather than a hotel or his home. Prosecutors last month named a 64-year-old political figure as the key suspect in what police call the most expansive case of corruption in the nation's history, the Holy Land housing affair. Today's interrogation reportedly focused on Olmert's suspected acceptance of 3.5 million shekels in bribes from real estate developers while overseeing the Israel Lands Authority when serving as the Minister of Industry and Trade 2003 through 2006 and as Jerusalem Mayor 1993 to 2003. Olmert was today expected to respond to testimony and evidence supplied by an unnamed state witness detailing his acceptance of bribes to aggressively promote Holy Land, delivered circuitously via his one-time bureau chief Shula Zaken and longtime confidant, attorney Uri Messer. Olmert was also reportedly asked about a meeting he held with the state witness, verified by others. Olmert's attorneys claimed that the state witness previously attempted to extort the former premier and demand that his identity be revealed. At the heart of the case is real estate developer Meir Rabin, whom police say acted as an intermediator to pass tens of millions of dollars of bribes to decision-makers in the Jerusalem municipality to promote Holy Land. The International Department of the Prosecutor's Office is also investigating allegations that payoffs were transferred to Olmert's brother Yossi, who lives abroad. The former Prime Minister is already standing trial on 3 unrelated cases of fraud and bribery. All charges predate Olmert's assumption of the premiership in 2006, which he resigned under pressure just 2 years later amid increasing charges of corruption. Prosecutors formally indicted him in the Jerusalem District Court last year for committing aggravated fraud, breach of trust, falsification of corporate documents, and tax evasion. Israel's tarnished former premier maintains innocence regarding all charges of wrongdoing during his 3 decades-long political career and has labeled the most recent allegations against him as a witch hunt. This is Aaron Viner for IBA News.
Police have recommended to the Attorney General that Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman be indicted for breach of trust in connection with allegations that he was given classified information by a former Israeli diplomat regarding an ongoing fraud and embezzlement investigation against Lieberman. The diplomat, former ambassador to Belarus, Ze'ev Ben Aryeh, allegedly showed Lieberman classified material from a probe against him when Ben Aryeh was supposed to have transferred the documents directly to Belarus authorities. Sources close to Lieberman downplayed the police decision, saying that their history of recommending indictments speaks for itself, referring to numerous high-profile indictment recommendations that were dismissed by the Attorney General.
In the broader scheme of the allegations that Lieberman has been facing for the better part of a decade, the latest allegations, I think, are the less significant ones. The more significant ones are those involving alleged money laundering.
The remand of executives from bread companies under investigation for price fixing has been extended until tomorrow. Company representatives told Army Radio today that they fear that if convicted, the executives could serve up to 5 years in prison. The antitrust authority accuses the Angel, Merchavim, Berman, and Davidovich companies of participating in the fixing of prices and dividing the market for price-controlled bread, whose prices are supposed to be kept low to help the disadvantaged sector of society. The Israeli bread industry grosses 2 billion shekels in sales every year. Price-controlled bread consists of plain white bread and challah, which are dietary staples for low-income families. Well, tensions rise as the flotilla sailing from Turkey draws nearer to the Israeli coast. Earlier today, activists rejected Israel's proposal for a compromise. Currently, the Navy is preparing for their arrival and the clashes that might ensue when the convoy is not allowed into Gaza's port. More now in this report.
The IDF is gearing up to stop the flotilla of aid ships directed at breaking the blockade on the Gaza Strip. This comes as the state proposed an alternative, which was rejected by Turkey earlier today. Israel had asked Turkey to transfer the humanitarian aid equipment to Ashdod, and from there it would be taken by the UN and international organizations into the Gaza Strip under Israel's supervision. The Turkish ambassador declined the offer, saying that Turkey was not responsible for the convoy. Following a series of consultations, Defense Minister Ehud Barak has instructed the Navy to prevent the ship convoy from reaching the shores of Gaza. The Navy plans to divert the Armada to the port of Ashdod. There, a special task force will be deployed, including representatives from the Foreign Ministry, the Interior Ministry, the IDF, Shin Bet, and the Ministry of Internal Security to efficiently deal with the matter. When asked about the flotilla, Welfare Minister Isaac Herzog linked it to the fate of abducted IDF soldier Gilad Shalit.
The sale, which has commenced in Turkey and is probably continuing through the region towards Gaza, is a clear provocation. I can say outright the only way that such a sale, which will incite and not bring any peaceful recognition in the region, can succeed, is only if those who arrange the sale will agree to bring out with them the abducted Israeli soldier who's been denied any human rights, any civil rights in the past 3 years, Gilad Shalit.
The Navy will deal with the activists on board the ships as they enter territorial waters. The fleet of protesters will be monitored from the air as well. Passengers will be brought to the shore, where they will be interrogated, and foreign citizens will be deported. If any Israelis are found, they will face legal proceedings. The Navy fears that the activists will try to create conflict during the takeover and believes that the ensuing clashes will be recorded by protesters in an attempt to negatively portray the IDF. Reporting for IBA News, Farah Cardelli.
Schools in Ashkelon intend to boycott tomorrow's Homefront drill planned for their area. The decision was announced by the Ashkelon Parents Committee, which linked the move to a recent report published by the Homefront Command, which concluded that the schools had faulty roofing, which would not be safe during a potential missile attack. The Parents Committee is calling on the government to take immediate action in order to fix the problem. The Defense Ministry had allocated 22 million shekels to build bomb shelters at 10 schools and 22 preschools, but so far they've failed to do so. And joining me now in the studio is Professor Yoel Cohen, author of the book Nuclear Ambiguity on Israeli Nuclear Policy, who's also chairman of Ariel University School of Communications. Professor Cohen, thanks so much for coming in this evening. Well, President Shimon Peres has categorically denied a report that appeared this week in the Guardian newspaper in Britain relating to Israel's alleged offer to sell, back in 1975, nuclear warheads to South Africa. Does the Guardian report have any credibility, in your opinion?
Well, the specific report itself is based on certain access to archives, but in the question of Israeli-South African nuclear cooperation has come up in the past. And according to foreign sources, the two countries carried out a nuclear test in 1979 in the Indian Ocean. This was subsequently confirmed after the end of apartheid by the Deputy Foreign Minister in South Africa. There are claims that South Africa has supplied material like yellow cake for the functioning of the Dimona nuclear reactor. There are also claims, according to Vanunu, who worked in the nuclear reactor, that South African scientists have visited the reactor. But of course, all this is according to sources, published sources, and of course the Israelis, unofficial Israel, have not confirmed it. And I would say in very general terms that the question of the Israeli-South African nuclear cooperation is perhaps one of the most sensitive areas, particularly during the period of the apartheid regime, but still sensitive today.
You sound like there may be a thread of credibility to this report, since these documents have just been released for publication.
I would not be surprised if in the end of days that somebody may come out and confirm that there was some basis. But as I say, there is circumstantial, shall we say, evidence of other reports indicating that there was a serious level of cooperation between the two countries on the subject of nuclear cooperation. But I have to say, on all this is according to foreign sources.
You have written extensively about the convicted nuclear spy, Mordechai Vanunu. You made reference to him just now. He's back in prison after being released from serving his original term. He was forbidden to talk to foreigners. He spoke to foreigners. He refused to do community service. Does it seem plausible to you that in the year 2010 that Mordechai Vanunu still poses a security risk for Israel?
He doesn't pose a defense risk, but he poses a diplomatic risk. And the diplomatic risk that he poses is that, according to U.S. law, a country which reportedly develops nuclear weapons which are not under international supervision cannot receive foreign aid assistance from the United States. So I believe, according to my estimate, the continuing refusal to allow Vanunu to go abroad and so on and so forth has to be understood within the context of United States-Israeli diplomatic relations and not on that has got new information, because all that was released in the original Sunday Times exposure of 1986. Professor
Yoav Cohen, author of Nuclear Ambiguity, thanks so much for being with us. Thank you for your insights. U.S. President Barack Obama used the White House visit of Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri to warn of the growing danger of weapons smuggling to Hezbollah terrorists. The President told Hariri that Hezbollah was operating in violation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which calls for the disarmament of the terrorist group, which has representatives serving in Hariri's government. Hariri's first official visit to the United States took place amid growing tensions in the Middle East, including fears expressed by Syria and Lebanon of a possible Israeli attack and U.S. efforts to restart the peace process.
I told President Obama that today we have a real opportunity. The world is ready. The United States' is close cooperation with a quartet partner should lead a global effort to achieve a global solution for this global problem. The Arabs are certainly ready. This readiness was explicitly expressed in Madrid and in 2002 Arab Summit in Beirut, when the Arab world extended a hand for peace through the Arab Peace Initiative. The atmosphere could not be more ripe for a collective global effort than it is right now. It is a time for a regional peace that allows the Palestinians the right to return to a state of their own, with its capital Jerusalem, and yes, we can achieve it.
Relations between Jewish and Arab residents of Israel have significantly worsened over the past decade. That's the finding of a new study presented this afternoon at the Knesset. The survey, headed by Haifa University's Professor Sami Smucha and commissioned by the Citizens Accord Forum, paints a bleak picture of the country's Jewish-Arab ties. Nearly 50% of Israeli Arabs questioned said they were displeased with their lives in Israel and did not feel the state operates in a democratic manner toward its Arab citizens. Joining me now in the studio to discuss the findings is Ibrahim Abu Shindi, co-chairman of the Citizens Accord Forum between Jews and Arabs in Israel. Mr. Abu Shindi, thanks so much for coming in. You've just returned from the Knesset, where you presented the study. What are your conclusions, and how alarmed should we be at these findings?
Look, I'm not surprised, because if we are talking about the issue of relation between Arabs and Jews in Israel, it's going worse and worse, because first of all, the government does not invest in anything in the issue of tolerance and coexistence. Most of the issues of coexistence and tolerance are issues that belong to NGOs in Israel and rely more on the nations. And we know that you know about the social and economic level all over the world, so we have less and less and less budgets. And if we conclude all the efforts and budgets for all those organizations, we are talking about half a tank, something like half a tank. The issue that the government, once we had a Department for Democracy and Coexistence, the Ministry of Education, and they demolished it. So we don't have any budget of that. This is one issue. The other issue is that all the NGOs that deal with the issue of coexistence and most of those activities are activities that belong to people that are convinced, people that are open-minded. We are not working with blocking groups. So it's very important to work with blocking groups like people that are coming from, new migrants that are coming from Russia or Ethiopia. But that situation, we don't invest in issue of tolerance coexistence in Israel.
Would you say that the deepening divisions threaten to break the relatively calm coexistence that exists today? And where are we heading?
Look, there are two things. First of all, the coexistence, and secondly, the rights of the Arabs, more rights. I remember the period of Rabin. As a prime minister, Rabin gave Arabs the same rights as Jews, and this is one hand, and the other side is looking on the eye level. So I'm a very optimistic person. Looking at the half-empty glass or half-full glass, I look at each drop on the glass. I think that if the government, and I met the Minister Braverman and other members of Knesset, if we will invest in the issue of coexistence and we are in the process of peace, I hope that we will have a better atmosphere in Israel at all.
I think many Jews feel that Israeli Arabs enjoy a certain amount of rights and benefits, privileges, but they don't, the Arab community doesn't necessarily reciprocate with regard to those rights. Is there an inevitable sense of unfairness, and can this be corrected?
There is unfairness. When we are talking about rights, we don't have the same rights. Even if there are surveys that the government made about the issues of education, budget for education for the Arab minority, and other issues. I'm in the Citizens Accord Forum. We made a lot of surveys. We are working. We were established in 2000, and we are working all over those years in the issue of tolerance and the issue of Arab rights. We don't have the same rights. So if we will work in the two sides, two issues, first of all the Arab rights, and secondly increase coexistence tolerance between the two sides, I think that we can do things together.
Mr. Ibrahim Abu Shindi, co-chairman of the Citizens Accord Forum, thanks for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
The Australian government and opposition are at odds over Canberra's decision to expel an Israeli diplomat as a result of an alleged use of forged Australian passports by Mossad agents in the Dubai assassination of Hamas terrorist Mahmoud al-Mabhouh. Opposition Foreign Affairs spokeswoman Julie Bishop blasted the government for unfair treatment of Israel. Bishop reportedly claimed that Australia itself uses forged passports and accused Prime Minister Kevin Rudd's government of overreacting. Bishop said it would be naive to think that Israel is the only country in the world that has used forged passports for security operations. For its part, the Israeli Foreign Ministry expressed regret at the Australian decision.
We regret this decision by the Australian government. It is not in line with the importance and the quality of the relationship between our countries.
Visiting in Hanoi, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said that progress in indirect peace talks depends on Israel. Speaking after his meeting with Vietnamese President Nguyen Minh Triet, Abbas also said he plans to visit Washington next month to try and advance the talks. Abbas is on a 3-day visit to Vietnam, the first time he has visited that country during his presidency. The two sides signed an agreement on a range of bilateral issues, including education, communication, science and technology, sport, and tourism. Well, White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel is in Israel for his son's bar mitzvah, which is to be held at a still undisclosed location, and the Obama administration has yet to reveal the invitation list to a major Jewish reception at the White House on Thursday. IBA's Jewish Affairs reporter Eli Wagalanter has been trying to sort out the mysteries, and he joins me now in the studio. Welcome, Eli.
Yes, Yochanan, we have a couple of mysteries to clear up. First, we have President Barack Obama's Chief of Staff, who is here this week to celebrate his son's Zach's bar mitzvah. Now, the visit is officially a private one, and Emanuel has not announced plans for where and when his son's coming-of-age ceremony will take place. His coyness left reporters, photographers, and at least one would-be protester frustrated yesterday when the bar mitzvah party failed to show up for a rumored visit to the Western Wall. There is speculation that the Emanuel family might choose a less public venue because of possible protests, where some Israelis see Emanuel as the leader of the Obama administration's perceived negative attitude toward Israel.
No problem. Thank you.
Meanwhile, in Washington, the American Jewish community is getting excited over Thursday's reception honoring Jewish Heritage Month. The function, being hosted by Emanuel's boss, President Barack Obama, and his wife, Michelle, is the highlight of this national event, first proclaimed by President Bush in 2006, which celebrates the range of Jewish American contributions to American culture. The White House won't divulge the guest list for Thursday afternoon's event in the East Room, so for now, the Jewish community in Washington and beyond is speculating over who's invited to the Big Bash. Those with knowledge of the list say it's an eclectic and interesting one, more show than substance, and markedly different from past Jewish-themed events, like the President's annual Hanukkah party shown here. Names on the list include Sandy Koufax, upper left, the left-handed Hall of Fame pitcher for the Dodgers, Olympic swimmer Dara Torres, upper right, junior welterweight boxer Dimitri Salita in your lower left, and author Judy Bloom, and a range of community leaders and prominent Jewish Americans, including members of Congress, business leaders, scholars, military veterans, and astronauts. Many see this week's reception as another step in what many are calling Obama's charm offensive toward American Jewish leaders, following growing tensions between some elements of the Jewish community and the administration over its policy toward Israel. These include a meeting last week between the president and Jewish congressional leaders, the president and a cross-denominational gathering of rabbis, repeated comments by Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton and National Security Advisor James L. Jones on the close ties between the two countries, and a private lunch earlier this month between the president and Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel. Officials point out, however, that plans for this week's event celebrating Jewish Heritage Month has been underway for several months. Yochanan?
Elie, I'm going to assume your name's not on that
Yes,
invitation
unfortunately,
list.
the president has not called me, so I'll be here with you all week.
Thanks, Elie. Turning to sports, Israeli tennis star Shachar Pierre rolled to a 6-1, 6-4 first-round victory in the French Open over Nuria Llagostera Vives of Spain. Pierre, who has jumped up to number 18 in the world with an excellent start to this year, made short work of the qualifier, who has a world ranking of 205. However, Israeli fortunes did not fare as well on the men's side. Dudi Sela, ranked number 61 in the world, crashed out in the opening round in straight sets to Jürgen Melzer, who is ranked 34 places above him. Sela gave a hard fight in the first set, falling 7-5, and then lost the next two 6-2, 6-4. And the local basketball season comes to an end this week with the Final Four at Tel Aviv's Nokia Arena. Tonight, defending champions Maccabi Tel Aviv take on Barak Netanya. Maccabi will try to rebound from a surprisingly difficult quarterfinal series, which it took until the final moments of the fifth and final game to beat Bnei HaSharon. Despite those setbacks, Maccabi is clearly the elite of the league, and only a major upset will dethrone them. Barak Netanya actually handed Maccabi its only regular season defeat, but also lost to the champs twice this season. Netanya's main problem is that they are overly dependent on their three main players, who account for more than two-thirds of the entire team's points. In the first semifinal, Hapoel Jerusalem takes on Hapoel Galil Gilboa. Both clubs had erratic regular seasons, but hit stride at the right moment in their respective quarterfinal series. The winners will meet in the championship game on Thursday night. Stock talk now. Share prices on the Tel Aviv Exchange remain depressed today in a day of heavy trading, and the shekel lost ground against most major foreign currencies. Let's look at the late afternoon numbers. IBM weather guy says it's going to get warmer and hazy conditions will exist along the coast and in the northern Negev. Here are the highs and lows. That's all for today. I'm Yochanan Elrom. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening, and shalom from Jerusalem.